Good evening and welcome to another edition of ANC News. I am Penny Libiani. My guest tonight is Nongceba Mhlauli, who is the national convener of the ANC Youth League. Last night at the Siyanqoba rally, the president said, "We are asking you, the people of South Africa, to give us a mandate to rebuild and renew the country's cities, towns, villages and rural areas." Nongceba is here with me tonight to discuss the role of young people and the opportunity that they present for the ANC as they're taking part in this election as voters and some of them as candidates. Nongceba, so do you think that the ANC is ready in all municipalities to hit the president's call on voting ANC and for young people as well to have an opportunity?
Good evening, Penny, and thank you very much for having the Youth League on your show tonight. I think that the ANC ran a very good campaign. I think that the campaign of the ANC for the last couple of weeks has really focused on voter contact, speaking to communities, understanding the frustrations that people have or have had with the ANC, understanding some of their concerns and addressing some of their concerns. The ANC has also said, as you've said in your intro, that that we are requesting that the populace of South Africa renew our mandate. And I think that's important for us to stretch that it is a renewal of a mandate that we were given in 2016 as well as in 2019, where the people of South Africa have said that they trust the African National Congress to build a better life for all. And I think the renewal of that mandate in 2021, we all understand that these elections are taking place during a time of a pandemic where we've lost so much. We've lost people close to our hearts. We've lost our jobs. Young people have lost so much, in the past year and a half or to 2 years. And the ANC is really saying to every voter in South Africa to say, you've trusted us with your vote before. We've delivered. And where we haven't delivered, give us another chance to continue doing so. And I think that message is important, and that's really what we are urging the voters, particularly the young voters, as we go to the polls with the special votes tomorrow and with the rest of the votes on Monday.
Okay, so you said at the rally that your call is for more young people, mayors and MMCs, youth and gender budgets and skills capacity to be at the forefront of building better communities. I mean, do you think the 18 to 35-year-olds age cohort will turn up in their numbers this coming Monday?
We hope that they do. We trust that they do, particularly because we cannot speak, Penny, about a future South Africa. We cannot speak about building better communities without the people that stand to inherit those better communities. When you speak about South Africa in 20 years from now, when you speak about South Africa in 50 years from now, the people who are going to be there are us. I'm 31 right now, probably about 51 or whatever in about 20 years from now. So whatever future South Africa we speak about, the people that tend to inherit that future South Africa are people who are currently young people. It's people like us who have children in that future South Africa. So the decisions that we make today about that future South Africa will directly impact on us, which is why it's so important for us to participate in those decisions, because those decisions are going to affect ourselves as future middle-aged and elderly people. It's going to affect our children. It's going to affect our grandchildren. So it becomes so important for us to form part of those decision-making processes that starts with participating in voting, that starts with participating in an election. But beyond that, young people represent the largest population group in South Africa. Now, you can't have a country where the largest group is absent, from determining the agenda of that particular country.
So in your statement last night, was it a challenge to the president to say young people should be more involved?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we want young people to show up because one, it's a civic duty to show up. Two, we also believe that we cannot not show up for our future. But beyond that, we also said in the 3 non-negotiables that you've mentioned, which is the one that we want 100 young youth-led municipalities as mayors, as speakers, as MMCs, as chief whips, etc. We said we want, youth-based budgets as our second non-negotiable, we said we want skills and capacity to be a prerequisite for deployment. And these three things we've identified as the ANC Youth League as paramount in reshaping local government. We know the challenges that we have at local government level. We know the issues that our people are faced with. But we also believe that you need the type of energy, innovation, skills, capacity that young people possess. If you are to say that you want to fix the problems that you have at local government level, the Auditor General's report speaks about, the amount of local government, local municipalities that are currently under administration or would have not received clean audits and those kind of things. We say that we have, as the ANC produced in the past 27 years, we've produced accountants, we've produced engineers, we've produced people with great skills who are products of this democratic project that the ANC has led over the past 27 years. And we are saying that those are the kind of people that we should be giving a chance into those positions of power to be able to bring the kind of change that we know young people are able to bring at local government level.
So then what are your thoughts on the barometer and the approach of how the candidates are being appointed, them being part of the community, the interviews that are going to be held with mayors, because that speaks to some of the requirements that you guys are speaking to. Is it in line, alignment with what you guys are asking for?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, one, we've seen, Penny, in these local government elections for the first time where more young people have raised up their hands and said they are ready to serve. We've seen young people saying that they want to become youth ward candidates. I think you've hosted a few of them a couple of weeks ago in your show. Just yesterday, we were in Centurion supporting our young candidates. We've seen young candidates forming part of PR lists, and really, when they are taken to the community meetings, we've actually found young people who outperform people who are older at community meetings because of the vibrancy that the youth brings. So part of one that we are very happy about is the fact that the young people have come forward in their numbers and they've said, here I am, I'm ready to serve my community and I'm ready to deliver. That's the first thing. The second thing, and I think that's quite important, what we as the Youth League have said is that because, which is also part of our third non-negotiable, it is this issue of skills and capacity. We've said as the Youth League that the years of you becoming a mayor just because you have struggle credentials are over. It's 27 years into democracy. I was born in 1990. It can't be that right now when I have all the capacities and capabilities to become a mayor, I must be, compared against someone just because they were marching, in 1970, and therefore that makes them a better candidate. It can't be, Right now, what makes you a better candidate ought to be your skills, it ought to be your experience, it ought to be what you offer and your potential as well. And not to discount, obviously, it's very important, the struggle credentials are very important. But what we are saying is that where we are right now, the issue of candidates who are fit for purpose, who are ready to serve, who are really schooled in the Congress traditions of delivering to the people and serving the people, that ought to be at the forefront of what we are putting forward. And we believe that the young candidates that we have put forward as the ANC are representative of that. Okay. Just one last point. We've also said to the ANC that we want to form part of those interview panels. And they've agreed, by the way. They've actually now agreed to have the Youth League form part of those interview panels, because we said that if we are serious about local government and if we are serious about, putting young people forward and affirming young people, we want to ensure that the mayors that we have at the end of the day are really the best among the best. Okay. And that's where our focus is as the ANC Youth League.
So in terms of injection of youthful energy, as part of the campaign, for example, in the age of social media, as much as the generational mix is a bigger conversation, what other qualities would you say you guys as the Youth League are bringing into this campaign to make sure that the messaging of the manifesto actually hit to the right young people and it gets across and it speaks to the issues that you guys are talking to, but also what young people on the ground in the communities are saying? The ANC hasn't had us on this. What is it that you guys are bringing as the Youth League? So,
interestingly, yesterday at the Sangoba rally, after the rally and the whole program, the president actually came up to me and said, "Congratulations to the Youth League for running a really good campaign," and that's quite important for us because we, as part of, even though we're a task team, we believe that we really started the election campaign before the ANC started it. And the reason we did that was because we understood that without the youth vote and without the youth voice, there is no ANC in government. So we really, really went out there. And you know, the kind of campaign we ran was a campaign that went back to basics. We didn't focus on the big parties and, you know, the splash and the glitz and the glamour. We went into communities. We went to each and every community in South Africa. We went everywhere, literally each and every province, each and every municipality. We went on door-to-door campaigns. We spoke to young people. We spoke to unemployed young people. We spoke to young artists. We spoke to young professionals. We literally spoke to all sectors of young people to understand, you know, what their frustrations are. And this was what we said yesterday. We said yesterday that we have encountered young people who, one, love the ANC and who want to form part of the renewal agenda of the ANC. We've also encountered young people who are despondent because of the state of youth in South Africa. And it is a fact that the state of youth in South Africa is quite dire. And to those young people, we said to them, let's come together and let's work together to improve our communities. Let's work together to save our organization and to, you know, really, really rebuild our organization. If we agree that my biggest challenge as a young woman in South Africa is gender-based violence and patriarchy, and that's your biggest challenge as well, why can't we work together to come up with a solution? If we both agree that my biggest challenge as a young, you know, graduate, my inability to find a job, and that's the same challenge that you have, why don't we unite as young people and work together, you know, to form a program of action that is going to ensure that young people become empowered at the end of the day. And that has really been our message to young people throughout this campaign, to say the unity of young people in South Africa is paramount to ensure that there is true youth development in South Africa.
Okay, so one of the other issues is how are you making sure that women are represented in the municipalities, especially the voice of young women? You were talking about the challenges of unemployment with youth and gender-based violence, but also the other challenge is making sure that there's you know, balance of gender. We can't talk gender equality, and if it doesn't start with young people, clearly there is no future in that regard.
So going back to our second non-negotiable, which was youth and gender-focused budgets as a precondition for approval at council level. The reason we had that particular non-negotiable is precisely because at the time of adoption of a budget, so if a council now sits and it adopts a budget and that's the money that's allocated, if youth-based programs are not there, if gender-based programs are not there, then there's no way that, well, we can kick and scream thereafter, but if the budget is adopted, it's adopted, you know. So we said that at the point of the adoption of the budget, the issue of ensuring that there is the empowerment of women, that there are programs that speak to the empowerment of women in that particular locality. There are programs that speak to the empowerment of youth in that particular locality. There are programs that speak to, you know, empowerment of young women in particular. As part of the program of that particular municipality, it must form part of the budgeting process, precisely because we found out that in most instances, because these things are not incorporated in the planning phases of what we are wanting to achieve, at the end of the day, we have budgeting cycle after budgeting cycle after budgeting cycle that excludes women, that excludes young people. And at the end of the day, you come, you say, we have this program or we have this problem in this particular municipality, and they'll tell you, we don't have money allocated for it. We know that without money, you can't do anything, which is precisely why we said, as our second non-negotiable, for a budget to be approved, it must have those particular conditions, and we want it to be written as part of the legislation so that it really, really forces all 280 odd, you know, local councils or municipalities around the country, which includes your locals, your district and your metros, to really form part of what becomes law that governs the functioning of that particular municipality.
So one of the things that you spoke about, it's how it's very important that young people are part of these positions, whether it's ward councillors or MMCs. And you spoke about how you as the Youth League, you were running a campaign before even the election campaign started. With that notion, how are you preparing leaders as the Youth League? I know you're currently a TUS team, but what sort of conversations are you having with young people to be ready when they say, I'm ready to serve, with the understanding of what the responsibility of being in those positions, come with, or in any other positions,
Yes.
whether it's within the Youth League or within, the bigger party structures. Because the thing is, young people want to be in positions, but how are they prepared for those positions? And in a case of where you have to work with experienced people, but you're bringing youthful energy, but is there a balance of what skills do I bring? What understanding does one have? And, is it an exchange of ideas? How do you guys work around that?
I think, one, there is no shortage of youth leadership in South Africa. There's absolutely none. There are such amazing young people. If you go everywhere in South Africa, there's really no shortage of young people with amazing ideas that are doing amazing things, that really just need to be affirmed. I think that's the first thing, is that young people are already leading themselves. They're already leading in their various sectors, and they just need to be affirmed. That's the one thing. The second thing is that as the Youth League, we've really, really fought for what the ANC put in its guidelines as part of the 25% youth representation. And the reason we fought for that was because, we could have wanted more. In fact, ideally, we should have wanted more. But we said that as part of the guidelines of the ANC for all of its candidates, the 25% is an important mark or benchmark for us to affirm those young people that we know are already there, that really just need to be given an opportunity. People will always say that, but they lack experience, etc., etc., etc. You gain experience through doing the job. There's no other way to gain experience. I won't be an experienced mayor if I've never been a mayor. I won't be an experienced speaker if I've never been a speaker. For me to be an experienced mayor, I must become a mayor. And that's what we are saying. We are saying that the young people that have the potential must be sent to the corridors of power. And we believe that those that we already have in our list, which is why we are identifying the municipalities where we want to make a case for them to be given the opportunity to lead in those municipalities. And we actually believe that young people can make a difference. I think that it's been quite proven that that we really have a cohort of amazing talent in South Africa, that all they need is to be affirmed. And that is what we want to see happening as the ANC Youth League.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that you're saying that they need to be affirmed and given an opportunity. That's when they can be able to show what skills they have. Okay, let's talk about the pledges.
Yeah.
Okay, there's been pledges that they have to take. Do you think the young people will rise to the occasion and live up to what is expected of them coming out of these pledges?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, one, the fact that the pledge was read by a young person. When the ANC was having its roll call a couple of weeks ago, Boitumelo Thage was a young person who read the pledge on behalf of all councillors in South Africa. That in itself is telling about the kind of young candidates that we are putting up as the ANC Youth League. But I think for me, most importantly, is that the pledge that says, I pledge to do and be better, is so significant, because it is also an acknowledgement that there are areas where we have not done better, and that there are areas where we have not, lived up to the expectations of our communities. And the fact that we're raising our hands and we're saying, I, as Nongceba Mhlauli, I pledge to do and be better. I pledge, to work with you in building our communities. I pledge to do A, B, and C, and all of that. For me, that's absolutely crucial, because it also shows, and I think the one thing that sets the ANC apart from all other organizations, it's the fact that the ANC has always sought to work with the people. And that's important, because when we say that the ANC is a parliament of the people, that's exactly what we mean. And when we say that building better communities together, it's exactly that. It's us saying that we understand that there are areas of shortcomings, and the fact that we are standing here today, we are pledging to serve you, We are pledging to be servant leaders. We are pledging to be better than our previous cohort of councillors, and we're pledging to be better. And we're pledging to really work with you as we move forward. But I think what's also very important with that pledge is that we must hold our councillors accountable. Okay. So if I come here and raise my hand and say I pledge A, B, and C on the 2nd of November, if I now, act completely contrary to what I pledged, I must be held accountable, which is why we also want young people to form part of ward committees. Very important. We elect people into positions, and the reason that those people become a law unto themselves is because we actually don't hold them accountable. So your street committees, your ward committees, your various structures of governance at local government level, we have to participate in those so that we can actually hold our leaders accountable. Because when we don't hold our leaders accountable, they become a law unto themselves, and then 5 years later we must go around the country apologizing on their behalf. Okay. As leaders of the organization. So we also want to urge young people to become part of local structures of governance wherein we hold our politicians accountable.
So let's talk to those young people who are either within the ANC or those who are watching and say, well, you came, I don't know if Monday, it's a long weekend for me if I'm going to do this. Yeah. What do you have to say to them?
Okay, so I think one, if you are a young person who's registered to vote, we are very happy about that firstly you did register to vote, and that's very important, and we congratulate you on that. But secondly, it is your civic duty and it's your civic responsibility to do that. And we really want to urge young people to exercise the civic duty and the civic responsibility to do that. Our right to vote did not come cheap. It came at a great price. Some of us might have not been born at the time, but the reason that you and I are sitting here right now talking about an election on Monday is precisely because there are people who fought and died for that particular right. But also, more importantly, let's talk about our future. If we are to speak about our future and the kind of South Africa that we want to see in 10 years' time, in 15 years' time, even in 5 years' time, let's form part of the decisions about what kind of South Africa that looks like. And we are saying as the ANC, vote for the ANC, work with us to build that kind of South Africa that we all envisage, which is non-racist, non-sexist, prosperous, and united.
Nonqeba Mhlauli, thank you so much for coming through and chatting to us tonight. National convener of the ANC Youth League. All the best with the rest of campaigning that you still have to do. Well, that's our show for tonight. Of course, let's do this again very, very soon. Election day on Monday. It's not a long weekend. It's voting day. Until then, good night.